evolution of the industry has changed to where record keeping is tremendously more important.
Made a new rule and everybody had to start keeping records.
Everything's documented.
So today we're going to explore farm data as an asset, as an opportunity to leverage. We're going to hear from Britt and Clay and Dell in just a moment, and we are going to hold questions until the end so we could stay on time. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Britt Dudek. Britt is not only a partner in Aprex and the program director, but he's also today speaking from the role of president of Dudek Orchards, and he's a tree fruit grower up in East Wenatchee, Washington. I want to welcome Britt Dudek.
Well, thank you all. And as Drew had pointed out, my job here today is trying to convey how I perceived information and data from a small farmer's perspective, and what my frustrations are about it, what I'm doing to try to corral it, use it to my advantage, and kind of give you some examples as to where I see we are now in the industry and where I think we'd like to be in the future. So just give you a little, start this off and show you where we're at here. Dealing with farm on the data on the farm, and we like to turn it into data, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. We have all this scattered amount of information, so this is my perspective. This is what I like to do. This is my farm. Those are my Honeycrisp that I was taken from my old Massey 165 out mowing the orchard. I would love to have a clear path on a daily basis to be able to do my job. What I had to do, drive down the row, turn, come back. It's very simple, very straightforward. Unfortunately, though, that's not the life or the world that I live in when it comes to farming. Farming's gotten extremely complicated, and really complicated in the fact that this is what I swim in now. I swim in this huge pool of information. It comes from every different source you can think of, you can imagine. It comes in every form you can think of. We talk about data on the web, data in spreadsheets, it's in your computers. I still receive information from some of my fieldmen on a written page. I get maturity reports during harvest that are sitting on my back door on a piece of paper. And so you look at all this, not to mention all the other things I have to do as far as compliance issues goes, things trying to improve the product that I have to put out in the marketplace, but also deal with several different packing houses. They all have their different requirements. I have different requirements for compliance, whether I'm doing SQF for Global Gap. That scary thing over there, it's called FSMA, that none of us really know exactly what it's going to be, but it isn't going to be easy either way we do it. And so my challenge has been is to find a method to take all of this information and do something with it. So here's what we'd like to think farming is all about. Nice tree, take a little nap underneath there, pick a little fruit and what have you. That's not the way it actually works, unfortunately. Maybe 40, 50 years ago, yeah, you could do this. But what I need is a tool, and I need a tool that takes the information and puts it into something that I can actually utilize it with. And we've got a lot of words that we turn these in, we call it normalizing data. We've got all these different kind of industry buzzwords. But what I need it to do is I need it to pull in all this information that I have. I need it from scouting reports. I need it from lab results, from leaf analysis, soil analysis. I need to know what my irrigators are doing, the recommendations that I'm receiving, the wants and the needs of the customer on the other end. All that needs to come into a centralized area that I can actually make sense of it. And so one of the reasons why I've started out working with Aprex is it's a great data platform that is starting to help us normalize all this data and pull it together. And it's data that we can actually use. So Drew had asked me to kind of bring up one example, one real challenge that I have as a small grower. And I thought the best way to do it, and with my rudimentary PowerPoint skills, was to give you kind of an idea of how my fruit kind of moves from my tree through this contorted, kind of messy, sometimes almost impossible to move through data pipeline, all the way to the very end of the consumer. And one of those issues that we have out there is food traceability. And it's not new to everybody. Everybody understands it. But some people don't quite understand about the value of information that we have at certain points along the pipeline and where it currently just kind of disappears and fades into the background, and why we need to work towards moving all of this information into a common pipeline that not only helps us be compliant, but it also helps us move our product to the consumer in a better way and actually receive feedback. So this is a tortured path of how things move through. They start out in the orchard, they wind up in a bin, they get picked, they get tagged. That tag tells you exactly where it was picked, who picked it, what the unique bin number is on it. For all those Stemilt people out there, you can see that it's one of your Stemilt tags out there. So load it on the truck, send it over to the packing warehouse. They unload it. They go ahead, they dump it, they mingle it with all the rest of my fruit. It winds up in boxes, it winds up in shelves, and then it winds up moving out into the retail marketplace. And so you can see all through the process here, data is being collected. But there are some points, and there's a valve in there in the middle where one of the points kind of disappears, where the data isn't being passed through all the way down the stream. And so some of these are challenges that I think we are currently overcoming, and I'm very happy about this, because what we'd really like to do is turn this complicated mess into this. This is what we'd like to know. I would like to know who's actually consuming my fruit. Did they like it? Did they enjoy it? Was there something that I could do better about it? And not just on a compliance side, because if I can bring better value to the customer, it's going to bring better dollars back to me on the farm and everybody through that entire pipeline. So my goal as I work forward and move through this whole process is to create a pipeline that looks more like this than anything else that we've seen. But one of the issues is that we run into out there is and Amber, my internal auditor, is here for Stemilt, is asks us about mock recalls. We have to plan for that as a food traceability issue. And one of the challenges we have is the fact that as my food moves, or as my product moves into the whole processing system, how it kind of can get lost in the shuffle. Not to mention my packed product, but anything that moves off into the processing side, because it gets commingled with all sorts of other fruit out there. So one of the challenges that I have as a small grower when it comes to these mock recalls is if a consumer does have an issue with one of the something that could be traced back to me directly, the problem is right now there's a disconnect in that pipeline. And so the industry response is, well, we can't trace that food all the way back to maybe the picker that picked it or the bin that it came from. They can kind of get it back to maybe the variety. And so as a small grower, if they say, well, we had a problem with one of your galas, we're just going to have to recall all of your galas. That's a little tough to hit, a little tough hit for a small guy. So my purpose with trying to be involved in this and seeing how we can utilize information and turn it into data is so that that doesn't happen to me on a recall basis, but it also prevent it from ever happening the other direction. And I can continue to bring that good value to the end user and understand whether they like the product and how I can do to improve it. So, and I know that this only scratches the surface, and we don't want to go on. We're trying to limit ourselves to about 10 minutes or so, because there's a whole other world of data out there and how that data can be used on the farm to improve our product and make it better. So with that in mind, I'll leave you with this. We don't know exactly where we're going when it comes to at bringing all this data in and utilizing it on the farm. I'm just here to tell you that as things change and advance in the future, our world is our oyster, and we're making great strides out there right now. But the key thing is just think about transferring information and turning it into data so I can actually use it on the farm and push it up through the pipeline, create value for the end user, and in the end, everybody down the line goes ahead and prospers from it. So anyway, with that, I will pass it along. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Britt.